How embarrassing. Can you hear me now? See, that was actually all planned. It was very confidential information that I was talking about. And I needed to, make sure that y'all weren't hearing that. Right? That's exactly what happened. Let me know if y'all can hear me now. Can you hear me now? Good. What was that? Was that Verizon commercials back in the day? AT&T? I don't remember. Anyway, let me know y'all can hear me. Hey, Bryce. I'm hoping that yay means you can hear me. Bryce, Tara, Patrice. Hey, hey, hey. My people. So if y'all can let me know that you can hear me, I will go right back into all that confidential information that I was sharing. Just kidding. How embarrassing. I'm just glad I saw it when I did, because I had, my little outline of things I wanted to hit on over here. And when I went to look at the chat, I realized that I was in the wrong chat. It had the little studio chat up, not the chat with, the where it's streaming. So I couldn't even see the messages popping up. All right, cool. Well, let's just go right on back. Okay, let's back to the beginning. I was just saying, BravoCon it is 3 days of overwhelming chaos that is, I don't know how to explain it. Bryce, how long had you been going? I don't want to talk about it, Bryce. Okay. I was going so long, it's time for the next BravoCon. Okay. So, let's get started. It was a weekend that I could never have, imagined. It was so poetic. It was nostalgic. It was, full of really unexpected things. It was full of emotional things. It was full of, it was every emotion that one could experience. And I'll hit on that as to why. But I'm kind of going to go just in order of my trip, so I can stay on track and kind of, just tell y'all in order of like maybe to explain like why I felt the way I felt about certain things at that time, So we're going to start with the day that I got there. And that was Thursday. Okay. Now, so I was supposed to get there Wednesday. Vicki and I were supposed to go to New Kids on the Block, but I wasn't feeling well. My doctor says that he thinks I had food poisoning the day before. So I had to push my trip to Thursday. I was like, look, I'm just going to sit here, rest up, and we're going to try this again tomorrow. Okay. And so by the time I even got there, we were literally talking about, we're like, oh my God, this is not off to a good start, because I was literally sick. Vicki, as we talked about, she had surgery less than a week before going, and she gets to Vegas and realized that she had left her pain medication that the doctor had given her. She left it at home. What else happened? I don't even remember and then I get there, y'all. And when I tell you, I did and I'm sick of people being like, you got to stop waiting until the last minute to order your clothes and stuff. Well, maybe sometimes I got to wait for a vibe. I got to wait for inspiration. Sometimes I don't know what I want. Okay. And sometimes I do. But I think personally, I need to stop being blamed for ordering things late, when even though, they're still showing up days and days late, even at the destination where I'm going. So I'm ordering these things for a trip or for a vacation. Maybe sometimes I don't order them to my house. I'll say, just to be safe, I'll order it to the hotel or to the Airbnb, or I'll go pick it up at like a post office or something. Even that. Like, I want you to know, one of the things I ordered, I still don't think it's in Vegas. Okay. And unfortunately, that wasn't a single little long instance here. I believe I think it was 4 or 5 separate orders from different places. Okay. Of different pieces, things that I wanted to wear. 2 showed up at all. And one of those didn't show up until I didn't get it until Saturday morning. Okay. So it was chaos from the beginning. I was like, you know what? This is going to be a weekend of debauchery, and I'm not sure the kind that I would like. I was like, the universe is really giving it to us right now, you know? So we get there, and first thing on the agenda is we have our 2 T's in a Pod recording. So we basically, like, I think from the time that I got to the hotel, had lunch, and was supposed to meet with Vicki to go up to the iHeart suite, I had like an hour or something, you know? So I meet with Vicki, you know, it's all good to see, great to see her. I'm so excited to see Patrick, her social media manager, also her sister-in-law, Mary Ellen, who is like, you know, one of my favorite people in the world. Her boyfriend Mike was there. Her brother Billy ended up coming in later. So anyway, we reunite. Woohoo, good to see you. And then we go upstairs. Okay. And so like I'm nervous. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Was I nervous going on 2 T's in the Pod? You bet you I was. I was absolutely terrified. I was like, what are we walking into? Not in the sense I never thought they were like going to set us up or anything like that. But I just was like, I don't know, like who all's here? What are we going to talk about? Or has Vicki told me ever? Is there because sometimes Vicki be keeping me in the loop, and then there's other times where she's like, oh, I forgot to tell you. I'm like, well, let's make sure there's nothing I forgot to be told before we get here. Let's be on the same page, you know. And it was just a lot, you know. I'd been up since like 4 o'clock that morning. So yeah, I was nervous, and I didn't get to get a cocktail before I got there in Vegas. So add that to the list of offenses, you know? Anyway, all that to say, the stress was completely gone. The anxiety was completely gone the moment that we walked in. Everyone was incredibly lovely. Tamra, Teddi they were lovely. Their team of producers and you know, just I guess people like assisting them and making sure that the weekend went well. Their team from iHeart, they were just absolutely incredible and welcoming and you know, accommodating. And we walk in and it's like, oh my God, you know, it's sometimes you know, I always tell everyone like I'm so honored and grateful to like be in this position, you know, to be, you know, connected to Vicki and to be able to, you know, sometimes interact and engage with some of these other like women that I've watched and loved for all these years. You know, it's an interesting place to be. And I try to be, you know, very conscious of reminding myself like to be thankful and to like don't take anything for granted and be in the moment, you know. And that was one of those moments when I walked into that suite and it was like, you know, Alexis Bellino was over here, Tamra and Teddi were in the other room recording. They're talking about how Carol Radswell is about to come up the stairs. I'm entering the room with the OG of the OC. Okay. Dolores was there. It was just like I walked in and I'm like, oh, like, yay. You know, it was really special and a great way to kick off BravoCon. And the only reason I'm telling y'all about this is because the first thing on my list of wonderful things that I want to talk about from this trip is Dolores Catania in general. Okay. From the moment I walked in, perhaps Dolores is why some of my anxiety quickly went away. Before I could even scan the room, and it was a big room, I was like, okay, money. I was like, I'm scanning the room. I'm trying to see who all is even in here, what's going on, like where are we recording at, da da da. And before I could even literally get halfway through my pan of the room, I see Dolores get off the couch, very excited. She's like, and I genuinely thought like that she was either going for Vicki or going to someone like behind. I knew that she knows, like she and I know who the other one is. Obviously, I know who she is. I know that she knows who I am, but like we haven't really thoroughly engaged, I don't think, ever in person. And other than like, you know, me making a meme and tagging her in it, something like that. Well, she was coming for me. And she was the most delightful human being I have ever interacted with. She comes up and she's like, I am so, so happy to finally meet you. She gave me the most wonderful hug that I almost had to, you know, like maybe, you know, get on my knees for because she's so tiny and skinny and fit and beautiful and perfect. And so anyway, I was just like, oh my God, thank you. Like, it's so nice to meet you too, you know? And then I realized, I'm like, God, like, it's kind of crazy. I don't remember a formal, you know, interaction or conversation with her after all these years, other than, you know, maybe just a brief meeting. So I was wearing like this denim jacket that has Selena songs on it, Selena Quintanilla. It had a Selena picture on the back. And she immediately recognized it. She was like, oh my God, your jacket love it. So I did a spin. She's like, I love Selena, you know. So then I was like, okay, maybe this trip ain't going to go so bad, you know, because the gods have, you know, sent a housewife my way to make me feel comfortable. And the first thing on the agenda to discuss is Selena. I don't know a better way to kick off my day or for anything to start off. Anything. That's the best situation I can imagine. Anyway, so that was not the end of my Dolores interactions. You know, that was Thursday. We were there. I saw her, I think, every day through Sunday, you know, in passing at the hotel, all that stuff. And every single time, it was just like the first time all over again, in the sense that she was just so kind and just so, you know, we would just hug and talk and everything. And her specifically, I'll be honest, you know, obviously, you know, the best thing in the world happened this week. And Vicki got her orange back for season 20. And we're obviously going to talk about that, you know, more in detail in a little bit. And it's the reason why this weekend was so special and poetic and, you know, but I know that forever, when I look back on this, no matter how many years it may be, when I look back on this weekend, one of the things that I will remember when it comes to Vicki and her getting her orange back for season 20 of Real Housewives of Orange County will be the excitement that Dolores had for me and the compassion and the understanding of why this was special for me and why, you know, being there meant the world, and how the, you know, as maybe a unique duo of sorts, you know, for Vicki and I, that this was, you know, both an iconic and monumental and celebratory moment for her. And also additionally in a very unique way, kind of for us as a duo, because I'm just, you know, everybody knows if I'm breathing, I'm reminding you that Vicki needed her orange back, period. Since 2000 and like what, 19, whatever year that was. I don't know. That she got demoted. I tried to trauma block it, you know, but it was just, and she wasn't the first. That was kind of the funniest like thing this weekend, is the amount of people, literally Bravo celebrities, that I would, you know, meet or you see when Vicki was backstage or whatever, that said, I feel like I should congratulate you too. And I said, you should, because I'm like that. I'm that happy for her, you know? And I mean, the thing is, you know, when Vicki and I first ever met, when she asked me to, you know, join her on the podcast, I told her, I was like, if there's anything that I want to do, or if there's anything that I would like to accomplish, I said, I just want to remind, you know, this fan base why you're worthy of being celebrated. I was like, you're one of the, in my opinion, the best housewife we've ever had. And I said, I don't know how that seems to have kind of, you know, not been forgotten, but not been as, you know, celebrated and vocalized, I think, over the years as it should. And, you know, I always just wanted to remind her of that, to remind anybody that happened to ever see a meme of mine, whether it is my favorite, you know, video of her praising, you know, God by the pool at Tamra's baptism, or, you know, like her making the stank face whenever Gretchen says that you have to leave a voicemail and leave the message for Slade. You know, it is, and it's wild that, you know, I feel like there has been, you know, especially recently with the, you know, the nostalgic era of season 20 approaching, there has been just a really, really good wave, you know, of support for her, and, you know, a time of celebrating her, and what, you know, and so it just, regardless of what part I have or haven't had in that or whatever, it just is, it's so special to be a part of, you know. And I was talking to my mom, you know, I was a late bloomer on Housewives. I didn't start watching Housewives until 2 or 3 years into college. I was dating a guy, and I was at his house one day, and he had on, I'll never forget, it was Atlanta, and Kenya was twirling in the street in that red dress. And I said, I need every single, he explained to me that it was a franchise. I said, I need every single city. I need you to write them out in order. I need you to get it notarized. I want it to be official. I want an episode count of each city. I want to know what I'm facing. And I want a one-page explanation of every single housewife and their storylines. Can you have that to me by the end of the day? He didn't have it to me by the end of the day, so I had to get the research on my own. And, you know, I went on this long binge journey in college of watch. I mean, because that was right when Hulu added all the cities, y'all. So I went and watched all of them, and throughout all the seasons and all the years and the fights and the firings and the rehires and the social media of it all, as that has gone on, there's been three. I mean, I can give you my top five, but like when it comes to OGs who are still actively in the game, there's been three people who have always been at the top of my list, and those have always been Vicki, Teresa, and Kyle. And to just see how kind of full circle this moment was this weekend about Vicki and I only even got connected because I used to make memes about how I was pissed over her getting fired. Like I would try and be cheeky and funny with it, but deep down inside I was like, oh, because I genuinely felt it was a shift for the network when they got rid of her all those years ago. I said, this is a intentional decision to focus on new talent and to not be as involved with the women we've loved all these years. And that hurt me because OGs are why I love this show, why I love this franchise. And Vicki's the main reason of that. And so I know I've sounded like a broken record all these years, but I feel like maybe it makes sense. There now is such a value behind the nostalgia and the familiarity of some of these women who've given us a lot of their lives. So anyway, I went on a rant there about Dolores because Dolores was one of the people who really came up and kept, just celebrating with me. She's like, I think that you're more excited than Vicki is. And I'm like, well, we're excited in different ways. I said, she's excited and happy to feel the love that she deserves to feel and to be celebrated. I said, and I'm happy that I get to watch her do that. And I get to, be part of it. So now let me plug in my computer. Now I'm saying all that, let's just be honest, because y'all know that I keep it 100. Nothing in the world could have happened this weekend better. Like literally. I mean, and y'all got to think, no, I did not know that Vicki was getting her orange back. She genuinely did not know. There was not a contract in place. Like, no clue. They did all they could to genuinely surprise her, which in my opinion is history making in and of itself, and they were really, really strict this year about like plus ones in general. Okay. And so talent all gets the same amount of tickets. They can decide if they want like a certain amount of all access or do they want like, regular tickets to give to people. And so we went in assuming that, the all access passes or tickets, would also apply to whatever event she was booked for. Well, then when we get there, everybody, not just Vicki, everyone's finding out like, because I had other friends and people that I've worked with in the past that were there for other people. And they were realizing too that they couldn't have access to events. Like I think even if I'm not mistaken, there were times that even Glam was restricted to go in for touch-ups, which is, to me, that's surprising. But I get that, like, I will never not be insanely impressed by how Bravo pulls this off with all the logistics and the scheduling and the multiple people and all their teams and getting them there on time. And I understand that maybe if they have to lessen the people, less chefs in the kitchen on times like this, I get it. However, what I'm saying, we all got there, and that's when we found out that they were only allowed like a one person at each event. And like, so Watch What Happens Live, they were allowed one person to be like, I guess, with them. Now, I don't even know. Michael was her person, but I'm not even sure if Michael was backstage or if he was in the audience. I'm not sure. And then they said that I believe that one person was supposed to be spouse, I think. So we are all finding out, okay, we can't even go. Back to some of my outfits not arriving. I was like, you know what? God is good, because I was about to go to the Bravos in some Amazon jeans from last year and a little family van t-shirt. You know what I'm saying? Now, would I have done it? You bet I would have. But what I was envisioning for myself for that evening was not there, And Susan says, Kim Power spoke very nice about you today. Oh, did he really? I love him. Was he there this weekend? Because if so, I didn't see him. Oh, that's really nice. I'll go check that out. Thank you so much for letting me know that, Susan. Um, so yeah, we found out, okay, we can't go. And again, in that moment, I'm like, oh, bummer, because I'm like, I would have liked to have seen Vicki hand off the award to Candy. I love Candy, would have loved to have seen her. But I was, again, already exhausted. I was already frustrated because my clothes weren't there, so I didn't even know what I was going to wear. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to have a drink, get some food. I had some friends there. We're going to catch up. And then if, I'm not too tired after Vicki gets back, or she's not too tired, me, her, Mary Ellen, her brother, well, I'll go get a drink or something. We'll go to dinner. So I don't know. Well, you know what happened? So we're all separate. Vicki's there, and my phone starts blowing up. First text I got was Ace from Reality Court. And he said, wait, Vicki got her orange back. And I was like, don't mess with me. Like, that's not funny. Ha ha. And then I think it was Maggie from Best of Bravo who texted me. And she was like, oh my God, she's back. And I was like, y'all are sick in the head to do this to me right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all ain't got nothing else better to do. And then it hit me. They don't know each other. So if they did team up to do this sick prank on me, who is already sitting here barely clothed with nothing that has arrived, y'all are nasty. But then, like I said, I realized, I was like, I don't know that they've ever met. And especially if they have, that we all know each other. So then that's when I panicked. I was, oh my God, I don't even remember where I was. I blacked out. I think I was in my hotel. I was either in my hotel room or the elevator. But I remember I started blowing up our podcast team because we had a couple of our producers were there. We had crew as far as like cameras and lights. And then we had, with Christina, our team member from Hurrdat, was with us. And it was late. And everyone had been working all day. We didn't plan on filming or doing anything that night, And so I knew everyone was going to bed. So I immediately, I was in my room. I bolted out that room. And I start calling everyone. I'm like, 911, 911, 911. Do not go to sleep. Wake up. Like, literally, there could not be a more 911 moment for this particular team on this particular weekend. Like, I will body slam the doors down if we have to, And so I'm panicking. I remember this. I get on the elevator, y'all. And I remember there are two straight men in the elevator with me. And that's when I'm still in my head. I'm like, there's no, like, what? Because y'all got to think too, like, she hadn't mentioned it. So I was like, okay. And I told, she has mentioned in the past, she's like, I would tell you if, like, I were in negotiations or something. She's like, I would give you a heads up. And I said, you don't have to. Like, I am down to be surprised. I am down for you to go through that process and do what you confidently need to do. And then, share the news whenever you feel ready. So in that moment, I was like, I changed my mind. I wish that she had told me, but then I realized that she literally did not know. And so, like, the week or two before we got there, I remember I said, I'm like, you don't think they'd surprise you, do they? Because obviously I've been kind of mindful of it, with the 20th season approaching and stuff. But again, hadn't heard anything. And she was like, no, I don't think that's logistically, like, impossible because I don't have a contract. I'm like, yeah, there's no way. So I really had just been, I was like, well, maybe, this weekend they'll be reminded how iconic she is when everybody's loving her. And then they'll be like, okay, get back over here. The decision was already made, baby. So I'm in the elevator with two straight men. I wouldn't know them if I passed them on the street right now, but I just remember the outfits were straight. Plus they had beer. So, and that's when I go to Twitter, and because they're, content creators were there, and I that's when people were like, oh my God, Andy just gave Vicki her orange back. Cause this wasn't live stream, but people were reporting it in the audience. And I am screaming in the elevator, oh my God, oh my God. And that's both like, I don't even know, were those excited oh my gods? Were those like confused oh my gods? I don't know. But I just realized that I probably should Venmo those poor boys, because whatever money they had invested into a good ass buzz that they appeared to be having probably was gone when the Southern homo in the corner of the elevator was having a panic attack, or as Heather Dubrow said, a psychotic break. So all the beer and drinks that they drank probably went to waste. They sobered up real quick. So I'm sorry, guys, but history was being made. So anyway, then I get off the elevator. That's when finally I am connected. So our network director, Pat, the studio we had, the suite we had was multiple rooms, right? And one of the rooms he was in, and then one of the rooms was turned into like a studio. And he was like, yeah, like we're good. Like we're good. And so I tell him I'm coming, and I get off the elevator. I don't run unless I'm being chased. Shocker. I ran like Jen Shaw seeing a paper with a senior citizen social security number written on it. I sprinted. I hauled ass. Ran for my life, because I was like, I knew it was getting reported everywhere. Number one, and then number two, I knew that like she was on stage. So I'm like, what I need to call her, and I guess maybe the producer in my head, that's when I was like, we got to make sure that we capture everything. I don't know where she is. I don't know when she'll be here. I'm an emotional wreck. So I go, he lets me in, and all right, so I'm just going to be totally honest. Before, God, people are probably going to talk. People are going to drag me for this, I think. But before I, called her and like it all hit me and all that stuff, like there was just like, I mean, y'all saw, I went from being in my room to scaring straight men in an elevator to near cardiac arrest, running. Oh, and then I forgot to tell you, I ran 5 minutes the wrong direction. I was almost at another hotel when it hit me, where I was going the completely wrong direction. So then my out of shape ass had to turn around and sprint back. I'm lucky I'm even here to tell the tale. Okay. But that just shows you where I was at up here. Okay. And just being totally honest, there was a brief couple of minutes, before I talked to her, and like while I'm up there catching this breath of mine that was almost taken away from me forever, there was a moment where I got upset, because I was like, I cannot believe that I'm not there to celebrate with her. And then I'm thinking her brother's not there. Her sister-in-law is not there. I'm texting and blowing up their phones. And they're like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Mary Ellen was like, let me get out of bed and come down. I'm like, and then it starts clicking with me too, that I realized and was told her talent handler, which is the most amazing person I've ever met in my life, Dana, like I would never want to marry a woman unless it were you. She was the most angelic person ever. And I found out that like she knew. So she knew what was going to happen. Obviously everyone in production knew. And a little bit of tea here, somebody at TMZ contacted Vicki that morning when we were in her room and she was getting glammed up. And we that's how busy we were. We didn't even think anything about it. We're like, what's going on? And then, so now later that night, all these things are clicking with me. And it was clicking with me that her talent handler was trying any way she could to get 1 extra ticket, 2 extra tickets. She was like, I'm doing any, and I was like, it's fine. Like, I was like, it's a Watch What Happens live taping with, yes, it's the Bravos, but I was like, like, it's okay. I said, I would like to be there because I love Candy, and I would love to see her with Vicki. And And I would also love to remind whoever is with her that we were supposed to book her for our podcast. But like, it's cool. And so then it hit me. That's why she was like doing all this, was because she wanted us to be there for it. And she was wanting me to be there for it. But they, it was like, again, the rules were very strict, and they said no, like no add-ons. And so I don't know, I just start thinking, I'm like, and obviously there are lots of content creators involved, influencers, and look, I'm an emotional, cancer sensitive individual. I'm like, what the actual F, that there are probably people in the audience who have not even given any support or desire for the OG of the OC to come back and be celebrated. And they're in the audience clapping. Don't hop on the family van bandwagon now. Because I've been in the trunk, in the driver's seat, in the passenger seat, in the floorboard, on any seat I could get a spot on for a long time. And it was just, again, it doesn't matter. I don't care if I had been on another planet when this happened. I don't. But there was a brief moment, as I'm just honest. There was a brief moment where I was like, how am I not a mile down the street right now? And then everyone else was, then the days following, when everyone's like, oh my God, what'd you think? What'd you think? Everyone was like, oh my God, you weren't there. And I'm like, no, I was having a heart attack between Mandalay Bay and the Four Seasons and whatever other properties I incorrectly ran to in the meantime. And ruining straight men's buzzes. That's where I was. But, oh my God, saying all that to say. So y'all remember, this was Thursday? Was it Thursday? It was Friday, right? This was Friday. And let's see. So yes, Friday was the first day of BravoCon, like where we got to the Caesars and stuff. And when we got there, one of the first people we saw was Nick Viall. Okay. And obviously Vicki had that moment where she, had the hot mic, whatever, when she did his podcast, and she's talking about it when she's on the beach with Mike. And so they, had a fun little exchange. We all took a photo, and that was it. Like that's who I saw first thing that day. Fast forward to that night where Vicki gets her orange. I'm like running down to the hotel where she's at, because I'm like, I was like, I'll be there when you get there. I'll meet you when you get back. And so I was going to the bar in the hotel where they were all staying, because it was kind of like a meeting point for team members, talent, whatever. And it's a lot of people. The only person I see that I recognize is Nick Viall. And what did I do? I ran right up to him and said, I need to talk to somebody, and you're the only person that I recognize. So we got to talk. I didn't tell him I was upset about the orange. I think he may not. I wasn't upset. I was just like, is there like a secret access tunnel, a government tunnel? Is there like a light rail that's like speedy? How do we get in the room? I want to go celebrate. I want to walk in with tequila shots and woohoo. I want to throw oranges at people that said that this shouldn't happen. Like, let's go, And anyway, I literally went up to this man. I don't remember who he was sitting with. Sorry if I interrupted y'all, but I needed human interaction in that moment, and that was the only face I recognized. It could have been the face of the biggest enemy I've ever had, and guess what? They was getting ready to hear from me. That's just all there was to it. So I said, I need to talk to someone right now. Vicki just got her orange back, and I'm panicked in the best way, and I'm excited, and she's not here. And he goes, I just heard, man, that is awesome. Congratulations. I think he got up, hugged me, or he gave me, I can't remember. Did he? I can't remember. But then he was like, I'm going to need to have her back on my pod. And I said, I'm going to need you to come on ours. So yeah, definitely he, oh my God, somebody just said that Megan King Edmonds lost custody of her kids to Jim. Well, don't know what I can say about that. Yeah. So anyway, again, it was a very emotional, like celebratory, like, oh my God. And then there was where she called me, and she's so emotional and so excited and shocked. And it was just so awesome. And then I go back downstairs after I called her, and that's when like talent starts pouring back in, and they're telling me like, she's back here, she's back here. And so I'm like literally back to running again. I'm like running down the hall. I remember I passed Mary Cosby and I said, all I need this whole weekend, my only goal is to get a picture with you, but Vicki just got her orange back and I have to find her. And she's like, okay, honey, you do it. And like, I don't remember who it was, but I remember as I'm passing people in the hallway, they were like, she got it, she's back. And like people were like celebrating with me, I mean, I wish there was like a video of me running. I would put that like slow, like dun 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 music over it, And then I saw her, and I have had lots of anxiety and confusion since then and fear that I perhaps ran, because the whole weekend we're like, she just had surgery, so nobody can squeeze too tight for the hugs. We can't be, she can't be lifting things. I was, I think maybe an espresso martini or two deep by that point in emotions and alcohol. I might have tackled her when I hugged her, for all I know. Sorry about that, Vic. But I just remember hugging her and crying, and she was crying, and we were just like, telling each other we were just, we loved each other, we're happy for each other. And like some people are like, what are you talking about? This is so silly. It's a TV show. Yes, I get it. But it means something to her to be a part of an ensemble group effort that, touches people. And that's what Housewives has done. So, again, and as someone who has tirelessly, said that she should be back, she should be back, she should be back. I couldn't be, just more happy and grateful and honestly just pleased that not only did they, make the decision to bring Vicki back, but they went about it in such a creatively thoughtful way as far as, doing it at BravoCon and surprising her. And, I just think that not only did they want to include her, they wanted to make sure that they made her feel loved and special while they, made the announcement and shared the decision. And so I'm very, very thankful to Bravo and the producers over there. I got to meet a couple of them this weekend, and, everybody just is really excited. So I told them, I was like, take care of my girl. But yeah, the OG though, he's back, baby. Let's get to Andalays. You know what I'm saying? All right. I have spent 40 minutes talking about all that. So I still got to hit on some other stuff. You might have seen on Instagram that I saw Bronwyn from Salt Lake City at one of the Bravo Palooza things. And I was approaching her because I was so excited to see her. And we've shared a couple like DMs back and forth from memes and stuff, And so I thought maybe she would know me. Well, she did know me, but not in the way that I wanted to. She looks at me and she goes, "Are you going to be nice to me today?" And I'm like, I didn't plan not to. And then I saw her again later and she goes, "So are we going to be friendly?" I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm an emotional disaster. Vicki got her orange back less than 12 hours ago. Be gentle. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Actually, no, at that point, I don't even think Vicki had gotten her orange back, but I was just so confused. Like, I was like, are we talking to Margaret Josephs right now? And speaking of Margaret Josephs, she and I were in line next to each other at the buffet backstage at one point. But prepare yourselves, because on another night, after a couple other espresso martinis, yours truly hugged it out with Melissa Gorga and wished her, I said, look, I was like, forget this show and all this for a second. I was like, honestly, I was like, if both parties have even 1% in them that has something in them that would like to remedy a family situation, any type of relationship, be it family, friend, whatever, no one in the world shouldn't want that to happen. And I said, so with that being said, I was like, like, I know we get silly and stuff with content, and like, yes, like I'll be a tree hugger till the day I die. But you know, like, we're cool. Like, I genuinely wish y'all the best. And also, you look hot AF in that red dress right now. And she said, you know, she was very sweet. Like, she said, you know, she's like, I think it seems like they've just also come to that conclusion where they're like, you know, it's easier and just more productive to focus on trying to be positive than to just stay where they were, you know? And whether it goes on the show, whether it doesn't go on the show, you know, it was refreshing to see. It was. And so I wish them the best. And, you know, maybe I can make some even more progress. And the next, I can apologize to Joe Gorga. But right now, we've reached our limit. I'm just kidding, y'all. Oh my God, Steph said, oh my God, you've never been mean to her or talked about her. That's what one of my best friends, he's like, he's very, he remembers everything. He loves like numbers, like statistics, like he loves data, but he remembers things. And he's like, as someone who has followed you and known every single meme you've ever made, he was like, I can confidently say you've never shaded her. And I was like, so I don't know if she has me confused with somebody or what, but very surprising. And just, I was so confused. I was like, now I know I'm running on no sleep, but you know, another thing that I got to do that really made me happy was I finally got to apologize to Denise Richards, you know, because look, y'all, like being in the content creator game for a while, like you have to be honest about it. Like it's, you know, I've done things and aligned and had stances before maybe that I'm not proud of, or like, you know, gotten roped into things with housewives and felt included and important, like, and, you know, and how can you not? I'm not faulting anybody that happens to. Instead, I'm encouraging anybody that has to try and resolve that, you know, if the other people were impacted. And I've always felt in a silly way that I owed Denise Richards an apology because of all the stuff that I was, you know, with Rinna years ago. Like when Rinna would be like, oh, I don't even remember the kind of stuff she'd say, like, oh, like Denise said this at like a filming and da 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 da, and you know, leak this and all this stuff. And I was in the game for so long. I remember one time she was like, oh, the Fox Force 5 group chat, everyone's wondering how you know this. And I'm just like, I have no idea. And then, you know, but that all came to a screeching halt during their Aspen trip because she was actively trying to get me to leak that Kathy Hilton had said the F word at that club. And it was the first time I'd ever said, look, I ain't getting in this because number one, I don't know what she said. I don't know what happened. Number two, that's a big accusation and they got big bank accounts and I don't. And number three, I'm going to need to know that there's like actual, like I need to know that that happened before I could ever publicly share that, because I was like, again, very damning. And also I was like, I love Kyle, and Kyle had always been good to me in terms of content and, you know, just kind as the absolute kindest person every time I've met her. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to just throw that out there. You aren't saying that she got drunk and fell at a bar, like, you know? And so that was around the time that like Rinna blocked me, all that stuff. And, you know, but I had already gone out and kind of rallied for her and everything against Rinna at that point. I mean, against Denise at that point. And so I saw Denise, Vicki's talent handler, Dana, knew Denise's handler, and she was like, oh my God, I'm going to get her for you. And so she comes over and I said, forewarning, you can walk out 2 seconds after this statement starts. You can look at me after it's over and tell me I have no idea what the hell you're talking about, or you can punch me. All of these are acceptable. And so I just explained everything to her the way that I just did to y'all in like 30 seconds. And she said, wow, like it kind of, she had like an understanding of, you know, I think maybe the social media influence of it all. And she said for her, the biggest confusion was like, not even that there were agendas being pushed about her, but that the one's so silly and one so like, why nothing else? So she's like, that's all you got, you know? And I said, you know, at the end of the day, you know, in a way, I'm thankful it happened, because that years ago, I made that commitment. I was like, I'm not going to be one of those content creators that just gets looped into trying to be ahead of the cycle and to be in the know and to prove that you're in the know through content, you know, because clearly, what did that get me? Blocked and with no info, and then also feeling like an actual like piece of crap, you know, because I was like, what is anything that I've ever believed or thought now? Probably like, God, I had to go back and be like, what all is this person even said or tried to make me feel about anyone else, you know? I mean, it was like a couple years of, you know, anyway. So it was lovely. If you told me that Vicki was getting her orange back, I was going to hug it out with Melissa Gorga and Denise Richards on this trip. I would have said, what drugs are you on? You know? So it was really, honestly, it was just a weekend of very emotional and all the good ways, you know, just very, very happy celebratory moments. You know, I could not be happier for Vicki. I really, really couldn't. I believed from day one that she's one of the pillars of this franchise, and that without even trying, she just naturally produces what it takes for these shows to be successful. And so I'm happy to have her back in the mix, you know, and so I'm really excited for her. And I'm really happy to see that it seemed there was positivity all throughout BravoCon, you know, Teresa and Joe, even like personally with like the Denise stuff, you know, it just seemed like a really, really good, positive and happy weekend for a lot of talent, for a lot of the people there. And a really, really, in my opinion, an effective and honestly like thoughtful way to wrap up the year and to really kick off good energy for 2026 and the programming they have coming up. With Ultimate Girls Trip's coming back, they said, you know, we have Beverly Hills kicking off soon. OC will be filming in the new year. So a lot to look forward to. And, you know, never count out BravoCon. You might end up hugging it out with the Gorgas. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, sorry that this live was, you know, about as long as, you know, like a Dorit explanation about anything. But I thank y'all for hanging out with me. And we will be back here on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk. Maybe I'll have some more BravoCon memories that hit me between now and then that I'll share with you. And yeah, who knows what else we'll have come our way that we get to discuss between now and then. But all I know is that I hope you're here for it regardless. And I will be here to meet you on Friday at 3 p.m. So, mwah! Besos, everybody. I'll see y'all later.